Hello fellow orchid lovers, it's Danielle here. I posted a video yesterday about how I fertilized my orchids, and one of my viewers requested that I actually show changing the water, etc. with my orchids. And so I picked three different types of orchids. I picked Phalaenopsis, a Cattleya, and also an Oncidium, so you could see the way that I change the water, clean the roots, clean the vase, etc. So the first one I'm going to show you is a Phalaenopsis, and I hope that everything's in the frame. I'm really trying to just get the orchids and not myself because I really don't want my image on the internet. So this is Phalaenopsis that I've had for, it's going to be 2 years shortly. This is the one that my sister-in-law gave me. As you can see, she has a pretty nice root system. Her water is pretty murky. I don't know if you can see that. So it does need to be changed. I do change my water once a week and clean the vases. So I'll show you how I do that. So basically what I do is I just dump the water, put the plant down, and then I take nice hot water. I swish it around in there so I can break up any fertilizer or algae or whatever that's on the vase. I take a paper towel and I try to get in all the cracks and crevices and really get it nice and dry, nice and clean, not dry. And as you can see, there is a little bit of green. So there was a little bit of algae there in the vase, but not that much. And then I take my fertilized water, and I showed you again yesterday how I fertilized my water. So if you have questions about that, if you haven't seen that video yet, check that out. And I put the water, I hope this is in frame. I put the water in, and I kind of at this point know how much for each orchid. So for this particular orchid, that's usually where I'll put the water. Okay? And then I take the orchid, in this case again it's a Phalaenopsis. I put the water on. I do put it on warm. I don't put it on hot. I put it on warm. I find that the warm water opens up the roots a little bit quicker. If you use, cooler water, the roots have a tendency to resist absorbing the water, but if you use warm water, I'm not talking about hot, warm water, lukewarm water. You see how quickly those roots are turning green? The newer roots have a tendency to resist turning green. So anything like this where they feel slightly slimy, like maybe there might be some algae on there, I'll scrub them really good with my fingers. If there's any sections I feel that are rotten, I'll pull them away. And I just keep, trying to get them nice and damp. And I'm very careful to keep this section, the crown, out of the water. So these roots up here, I'm not so worried about hydrating. It's really her roots down here. So as you can see, I'm just getting these roots wet. I'm trying not to come anywhere near the base of the orchid because I don't want to get any water in between the leaf joints on this orchid because that could rot the stem. So again, just trying to feel every root, get it nice and hydrated. Anything that I feel that needs to be pulled away, I pull away. Anything that I feel that is rotting. And then I switch to the other side, make sure I get all these roots. And again, I'm very careful to stay away from the leaf joints. I'm just doing the roots, see, just doing the roots and coming nowhere near that stem. Okay, so there we have that one. So as you can see, now that I've moisturized her roots, they're nice and damp, they've changed color, they're no longer silvery, they're nice and green. So that's what I do, and then I put them in the vase. And I check the water level to make sure that not too many roots are in there. If there's too much root in there, I will pour some off. But that level's great. So most of her roots are in the air, so she's getting lots and lots of oxygen. And then a portion of her roots is in the water. So that's a Phalaenopsis. So I'll do the Cattleya next. So as you can see, I put water in every week, but I put a level that I know by 2 or 3 or maybe 4 days later, the water will be gone because Cattleyas do enjoy having a brief dry spell. I was just leaving them in full water culture for a while, and while some of them didn't mind it, some of them didn't like it, and so therefore I stopped doing that. So now I just put a little bit of water in so that by a couple of days later, you know, it'll all be absorbed and they'll have their dry days. Now, as you can see, there's some white substance on the roots. So when I go in there and I clean her, I'm going to make sure I rub really good in those areas and get that off. So again, I just take the plant out, nice warm water, swish it around. I take a paper towel, wipe it out really good. And the reason why I do paper towels, even though it might seem wasteful, is because if I took a dishcloth, I might be cross-contaminating any bacterial infections or fungal infections, and so I want to take a different cloth for each vase so that I don't transfer anything like that. So that vase is nice and clean, and I'll just put the water in right now so you can see how little water I actually do. So that's the amount of water that I do, because I know in a day, in like 2 to 3 days, that water will be gone. The plant will have absorbed it and the rest will have evaporated. So I take the plant, I put the water back on warm, and I rinse the roots nice and good. I do try to get rid of some of that white stuff that's on the roots, because those could be, you know, fertilizer remnants, and I want to make sure I get that off of there. I don't want my roots to burn. And while I'm cleaning the roots and hydrating them, I am again checking to see if I find anything that's mushy that needs to be removed. Hey, Jet and Aurora, cut it out. Come here, cut it out. As much as, you know, I don't mind you playing, when I'm filming, I need you to be quiet players. Okay. So as you can see, roots are getting nice and green and that white stuff's coming off. And at this point too, I'll take the opportunity to check any moving eyes, you know, see if there's anything that I can see as far as, you know, growth, stuff like that. I do take records once a month of, you know, growth and any new eyes. I do have an Excel spreadsheet that I mark all that stuff down on. So that's her all cleaned and green and ready to go. And I'll put her back in her vase, gently. And I'll put the tag back in. And then as you can see, just the bottom of the roots are in that water. And I know she's thirsty, so she'll drink that in a couple of days. And then she'll have a few days of dryness. I hope that's in frame, actually. That might have been a little high. So that's the water just in case it was. Okay, so that's the Cattleya. And then the last one I'm going to show you is going to be an Oncidium, which has my dog hair in it, sorry. I have one German Shepherd Hound mix, and she's so fluffy, and this time of year she sheds, and it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. So as you can see, she's ready for some water. The water's all the way down to there. So actually that's much lower than I'd like it to be. I kind of neglected this plant this week. So because this has the glass beads, I do every month take them out and just, you know, clean them really good. But my weekly feeding, I just fill it with water and then I switch them around to try to break up. I don't know if you can hear me. I realize it's pretty loud. To break up anything that might be, you know, lingering on the beads. And then I dump them out. Okay. I don't see any algae, so I'm not going to clean the vase because I don't see anything. And then with her, again, you know, you have these new growths here. As you can see, sometimes if you get water in the new growths, you're going to get those patches, which means that water sat there, and you don't want that. So you have to be really careful with this type of orchid, especially in the colder weather, not to get any water in there like that. That's a no-no. Try not to do that. Yeah, I made a boo-boo. Okay, so with this, because I don't want to get anything, I do have a different spray on my faucet, and I will put it on the single spray, so this way I can be more direct with where I'm putting it, so it's not really splashing around as much. And I'll just gently, slowly turn the plant, and again, I'm staying well away from those bulbs. Can you see that? I don't know if you can, but I'm staying well away from those bulbs when I'm hydrating, because I don't want to get the base of the bulbs wet. I don't want to get any water in between the leaves. because I don't want to damage the plant. Okay, so I'll just go around until I feel like the roots have received some saturation. Okay. And then I'll turn it off. I'll put some water in the vase. Now this one I do fairly deep water. Oncidiums and finer rooted orchids typically you're going to find do like to be hydrated. So as you can see, the glass beads are pretty far down and the water level's pretty high. But when I put the plant in, the bulbs are not near the water. Do you see that? The bulbs are up here, the water's here, the beads are here. So there is, you know, a fair amount of her roots in the water, but the bulbs are not in danger of becoming too saturated. And again, I don't know if that's too high. I don't really have anyone to help me film. I film with my iPhone. I have it propped in a glass with a towel right now, so I don't know what's in frame and what's not in frame, and I'm sorry if I'm not always in frame. But basically that's what I do with the finer rooted orchids. I do, you know, try to keep them moist throughout the week. And I do know that she is one of my more thirsty Oncidiums. In a couple of days, she'll have drank all of this and I'll have to refill it. So I kind of do tend to, there's a few of my Oncidiums that I actually do water more than once a week. I know who my thirsty girls are and I do keep an eye on them and try to refill it. You saw how dry she was before I did this, and that's because I didn't keep on top of her this week. So that's why she got drier than I would typically like. So that's an Oncidium type. So I hope that that helped you see, you know, how it is that I do water my orchids. If you have any more questions, please feel free to contact me. You know, leave a message in the comments section. Other than that, I hope that you are all having a great week so far, and I will talk to you all next time.